So today we're going to get into utility functions in graphics. Now again, these are functions that are created for you by myself that are found in the helper.js file. And if you're looking for them, assuming I haven't changed the file since last time I've shown you this, they should be near the top under the utility functions section. And there you can see that there's a number of them. And these are what we're really going to focus on today, and hopefully do some cool effects within the programs itself. Okay, so we're going to start off very simple. The other day what we were doing is we were looking at items like this, like line, rectangle, fill rect, ellipse, and fill ellipse, and we also did background. And we noticed that when we did the background, it forced all of our filled objects to be colored the exact same way. And if we run this again just to see that, we can see that all the filled objects are indeed gone. So let's go back here. We're gonna leave the background on this time, and we're gonna fix the problem. So in our helper.js file, there is this command that I've created for you called set draw color. And essentially what it does is it sets the color of all of our elements that are going to be drawn after this to a new color. And this new color is going to stay that color until we change it again. So what happened was when we called the background command, it set this color as well, which means everything after that was changed to that new color. So we can change this on the fly and to whatever we want. What you will notice here is that it requires a red, a green, and a blue, similar to what we did the other day with the background. But it also has this last one called alpha. This is an optional parameter, which means if we don't supply it, it's going to deal with that left out value. And what alpha is essentially a level of transparency, or how much we can see through the elements. So, and it's going to be a number between 0 and 1. 1 being completely opaque, you can't see through it at all. 0 being completely invisible. So a number right in the middle is going to give you 50% transparency. Now you'll notice that if that alpha value is undefined, or we don't supply it, it's going to set it to a value of 1, which means it's going to be completely opaque. So it's going to set our new color of all following elements to that new color. So let's go over to main.js and let's call set draw color. We're going to set draw color before our fill rectangle. Set draw color. Now we need an RGB, so let's make it, I don't know, let's say 100 red, 150 green, and 0 blue. And let's not put in an alpha at this point. Let's just save that and go over to our program and run it. And we can see that they all popped up to this kind of ugly color. I don't even know what color that is. Doesn't help, I'm colorblind. Anyways, going back here, we can definitely see the difference here. We notice that both of the filled elements are this new color. What we're going to do here is we're going to modify things a little bit. You'll notice that the ellipse is drawn after the fill rectangle. What I'm going to do is I'm going to move the ellipse on top of the filled rectangle so we can kind of see the overlap. So let's move this over to, say, 220 pixels over, and let's say 100 pixels down. And now let's run it again. We come over and make sure that it's overlapping. Nope, we got to move it down a little bit. So let's just change this to a 150. And we're going to go back and run it again. We can see that it's actually overlapping this time. So the ellipse is over top. Now, back into our program, let's start playing with the transparency level. So we left the transparency level off last time. So let's set it to a 0.5. What you should see is everything underneath the following objects should be semi-transparent, or should be shown through, because our object itself is semi-transparent. So let's go back and run our program now. What you see is everything has that transparency. Everything after that fill command, or the draw color command, has that transparency applied to it. So all the elements. So let's switch things up a little bit. Let's go back, and now let's add another set draw color. Oops. And we're going to do this down here. And this time, let's set it to 1.0 just to make sure. And let's change these. Let's switch these up. Let's make this one 150 and this one 100 just to get a different color. And now if we go back, we get a completely different output. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to move the filled rectangle over top of the filled, the filled oval over top of the filled rectangle. Let's move that over. We're just going to put in the same coordinates that this one has, just to keep things simple. So that was at 220 by 150. We're just going to move this over. I'm not really going to be able to see the other one now, but that's okay. Going back into here, we can see we can't see the rectangle. That's fine. Now we're going to increase the transparency level of this oval, so we should be able to see part of the rectangle underneath it now. So let's go back and let's change our 1.0 down to a 0.75. So 0.75 opacity, which means 25% transparency. And we can see it kind of shining through now underneath. So that's how the transparencies and the draw color, the set draw color actually work. Very useful. Some other simple commands that we have that we can work with are commands such as get canvas width, get canvas height. Now you may think, well, why do I care about that? Didn't I set that inside of the HTML file? Yes, you did. But there's nothing saying that that may not change somehow within your program. You may not manipulate the size of the canvas later on in the program and then not know what it's at when you actually need the value. So you can actually look for it and retrieve that information. So you can do that using just the get canvas width or the get canvas height functionality, which we can see right here. Get canvas width and get canvas height. You see that it has no parameters and it does return a value, and we need to deal with that value. Now we haven't covered this in class yet, but quite simply what we're going to do is we're going to store the result of calling that function in a container. That container is called a variable, which we'll get into in more detail later on. So let's do this. I'm going to write in var, and I'm going to say canvas width is equal to get canvas width, and we're going to do the exact same thing for the height. Just copy and paste. And now, just so we can see what those values are, we're going to output those values. So I'm going to write out text. We're going to put it out at 30-point font of Century Gothic, because that's what I like. And the text we're going to be displaying are, let's see, width, canvas width. Now I'm just going to put a couple vertical bars in between here so we can separate the data a little bit so we can see everything. And we're going to put down the canvas height. A lot of concatenation here, as you've noticed. And now we need an X and Y location. So let's throw it at, let's say, near the bottom of the screen at 0. So 0x and let's say 500 height. Now if we run this and save and we run this, we probably won't see the text. Oh, there it is. Very difficult to see. It's the same color as this fill ellipse that we did before because it's still set up as that same draw color. So we can see that we got an 800 for width and we got a 600 for height. Why do you care? Well, that information can be used in conjunction with a few other things that we're going to do some magical things like centering text on the screen, which can be very useful for display purposes to make a user-friendly experience. That we will cover in the next module.